Have you ever made an assumption? Have you ever assumed that something was true and it wasn't? So you made an ass of yourself, and that's that word. If you cut assume into makes an ass of you and me. So why do we believe things to be true? We've obviously got a mindset that thinks things. We've got a right to have an opinion. But what if we combat that with something very simple? Instead of assuming something to be true, why don't we ask a question? And I'll use a simple example that's happened today. Somebody lost weight, a large amount of weight, in fact, an enormous amount of weight. They walked into a room full of people who hadn't seen them for a very long time, and everybody assumed that they had been on a weight loss drug. And they actually said that to this person. You've obviously been on some kind of weight loss drug because you've lost so much weight. Now, the person shared with me that they were openly offended by that because that's not how they lost weight. They didn't go on any drug at all. They exercised, they ate healthy food, they were focused and committed to being healthy, fit and strong, and they did that because they've got children and they wanted to live the example for their children. They didn't go on a weight loss drug because they didn't want to tell their children, Mummy's been on a weight loss drug. They wanted to share with their kids that Mummy got out of shape because she didn't look after herself properly. She's got herself back into shape, and now she wants to stay that way for the rest of her life. Now, I'm using that as an example because we seem to live in a world now where if it's on social media, if the rest of the world believes it, we assume it to be true. If a celebrity says it, if an expert says it, if a social media influencer says it, it must be true. But is it possible that if we assume it will make an ass of you and me? Because I don't know what's true. I have to ask the question. I can think it's true, but what if it's not? And I've dealt with a lot of those stigmas in my life. I'm a woman with short hair. I've been an exercise professional all of my life. I've got AI now on social media that thinks that I'm a boy. Most of my AI summaries of my videos, even AI assumes I'm a boy because I've got short hair. There's a lot of assumptions that go on in the world. We all do it, don't we? We only get one chance to make a first impression, and our first impression of other people usually sticks. That's what we think of the person for quite a long time, unless they can change our mind. But have you ever been wrong about a first impression? The way somebody looks, the way they dress. I've got a lot of very, very wealthy people in my life, multi-millionaires and a couple of billionaires, that if you saw them in the supermarket, you'd think that they were homeless people. They've got dirty old shorts on and a singlet and thongs, and they're unshaven, and they're multi-millionaires. But on first impression, you would assume that they weren't wealthy. All of that, to me, and the reason I'm sharing it is I just wish that we spent more time asking questions about people, being genuinely interested in other people rather than assuming things about them. So if you want to live your life to the max, which is what I bang on about every single day, what if our communication skills were more focused on, let's find out about people, let's ask more questions, let's be genuinely interested in people. If you're in business, you've got no choice. If you assume that somebody's got no money, if you assume that somebody wants to buy a certain product, if you assume that you can help this person, you could probably screw up your business, because unless you ask the right questions, you'll never know about your customers and clients. You have to ask, what do you want? Why do you want it? Where do you want it? When do you want it? How will you feel if you get it? How will you feel if you don't get it? Are you on and off track to getting the thing that you want? What do you want me to do to help you to get the thing that you want? They're just basic questions that if you're in business, you should be asking every customer and client. But why not ask those questions of everybody that you meet? I practice it every day, whether it's at the supermarket or the petrol station or at a cafe, or it doesn't matter who I meet. I always ask, tell me about you, which is the big open-ended question, rather than assuming that I know about them because of the way they're dressed or the car they're driving or the job that they've got. How about, tell me about you? Tell me about that. Ask more questions about each answer. What do you want? Why do you want it? Where do you want it? When do you want it? How will you feel if you get it? They're, to me, just common sense questions to build great relationships with people. Now, you might not care. It doesn't, that's how I live my life. You obviously don't need to live the same way that I do. But if you don't want people to assume stuff about you, wouldn't it be nice to be an open, honest, genuine person and be genuinely interested in other people? Now, just because you're interested in other people doesn't mean they're going to be interested in you. I get that too. But I want to be the person that when I walk into a conversation, if I make a connection with somebody, it's genuine and real. It's not based on an assumption because of the way they're dressed or the kind of car they're driving or or what other people have told me about them. And that's the big one in our world now. We make an assumption about people based on what social media says about them, or what the media says about them, or the gossip that we heard from somebody else. And have you ever been caught up in that, where somebody told you something about somebody and it just wasn't true? But because you might have trusted or respected that person, you believed them? I'm too old to do that anymore. Doesn't matter what somebody says to me about somebody else. If I haven't met that person, and if I haven't had a connection with them, if I haven't physically or visually seen the kind of person that they are, I don't want to make an assumption about them, because I don't want people to do that about me. Now, people will, and they always have, but I don't want to live my life like that. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I live my life based on being a real person, being a genuine person, and not assuming that I know anything about other people, or not assuming that I know anything. I hate that expression, I know that already. If I say I know that already, it means that I can't learn anymore. And I have a mantra every day: learn, laugh, huff, puff, lift. Learn every day, laugh every day, be healthy, fit and strong, and invest time with great people. But I won't know somebody's great if I don't ask the right questions. So if I want to communicate effectively, if I want to be known as a nice person, I have to do the things that nice people do, which is to be genuinely interested in other people. Could that be a great idea if you actually want to live? Are you ready? Live your life. You ready? Live your life to the max. Super duper doo. How are you? Living my life to the max without assuming anything. Woohoo!